Hey now, what's poppin'? It's your boy BearyBonka. Today we have a very special speed art. It's gonna be the recreation of Battle of Scarif, which is pretty much end battle of Rogue One from Star Wars. And so yeah, let's just get right into it. Name Battle of Scarif, based on Star Wars Rogue One, like the last final battle. The total time was about 7 hours. It's kind of loosey goosey. I only have about 4.5 on corded. And the rest of it is kind of just lost because I was just here and there adding little effects for the last couple days, so that's pretty approximate. The total number of sources is about 42, and there's a total of 320 layers and 56 groups. The final PSD file was 1.94 gigabytes, and the final resolution was 6480 by 2610 at 72 dpi. So yeah, there's nothing less to say. Let's just get right into it. So yeah, all you see I'm doing right now is just cutting out the citadel, and pretty much the first maybe hour is just pure cutting out bunch of different crops and placement of all of it. So yeah, here I am cutting out the trees as well now, so I can place stuff behind the trees to give it that little bit of depth. Now that most of the planes, the citadel, and the AT-ATs are cut out and color corrected, I'm going to start working on some of the minor details, as in people, and then later another ship which you'll see added. So yeah, as you see here, I am adding the clouds in and adding some Star Destroyers and a couple Rebel ships. But as you see later on, I do change out the sky and I rotate the one Star Destroyer, doing it a little bit easier for the composition. So as you see here, I'm finally adding some explosions, but what you'll see here in a couple moments, I'll switch out my shitty little Photoshop mess with a photo I grabbed off the internet, sources in the description. So after cutting out the ship, I've lost a lot of the smoke and particle effects that I wanted, so I'm slowly adding those back right now. So after tweaking on some depth of field on the trees and on the clouds, I am going to be adding some shadows and highlights to the first AT-AT by using an exposure adjustment layer, put onto a clipping mask, inverting the mask, and then just lightly brushing over the edges to create a shadow and the highlights. Now I'm adding the first of a couple background fire effects, which I'll copy and paste later on into the background to fill up the atmosphere a little bit. So now I'm just painting some shadows using an exposure adjustment layer and just putting it to the base image, and then I'm later going to add a solid black to add some ambient occlusion, so where two shadows meet with the object and the ground. So as you see, I'm grabbing some dust particles and stuff like that from a different Photoshop pack and some stuff that I used from Google, and I'm just going to decrease the vibrance and decrease all the colors to make it match with the shadows, and then drop it right below the feet and give it some motion blur to look like it's sand being blown up. So now I'm adding the exact same highlights and shadows onto the second AT-AT, and later I'm going to be grabbing some greenery to make it look like it's coming out of the forest. So now it's day 2 of the project, and after a whole night of consideration, decided the shadow on the AT-AT wasn't super realistic, so I changed it once, but inevitably in the final I'll change it 1/3 last time. So again, I'm just adding little details, adding some more sand explosions, working on some of the guys in the water and in trees, and pretty much the final little bit is just me adding little explosions here and there and try to fill up the composition as much as I can. Now the final thing I'm working on right here is the Star Destroyer being destroyed. Sadly I paused the video and didn't get the rest of me completely finishing up the rest of it, but you get the rough idea. So yeah, as I said, I didn't get the rest of it on camera, but I didn't add that much. I just added a little bit of explosions here and there. Pretty boring stuff to watch overall. Finished up the sky, completely redid the sky at the very end, gave it a nice little color grade as well using the camera raw filter, and give it a nice gradient to make the lowers a little bit darker than the higher parts of the sky. And yeah, add a little bit of grain, all the fun stuff really, but not too much. But yeah, in the future I promise I'll get all of it. Just this time was a little hiccup. So once again, it was really unfortunate that that happened, but I promise it won't happen in the future. But a download link for the image on screen will be down below, along with all the assets that I used. So yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you might as well subscribe and like for more content like this in the future. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. See ya.